The experience below took place in the summer of 1988. As I flew from the boat, I hit the water with an incredible force. My ears rang with echoing terror as the sound of the outboard engine blades came closer. I was pounded by the bow of the boat as it struck my right side, leaving me motionless and without breath. I spun uncontrollably as the boat pushed through me, clearing its path in the icy waters. I was motionless, unable to move or breathe, unaware of up from down. I felt something solid cushion me from underneath. It was then that I realized I had settled at the bottom of the lake. My mind immediately began to overload. A feeling of terror set in that is indescribable. My mouth opened and gasped for air only to take in a huge amount of water. I could feel it enter my body, rushing in, taking over, and claiming its new territory. I closed my eyes and realized that the forced acceptance of the situation allowed my ego to become completely stripped, my interpretation of the feeling and effect. A feeling of calmness now surrounded me as if coming to terms with a lifelong event that ruled me for so long. I was powerless and I accepted it. It was what it was and I needed nothing more than that. I then made a seamless transition to another space. I found myself in a void. I can only describe it as an endless plane of nothingness, as if space without the stars or planets. I had no physical body and saw through something other than a set of eyes. Everything seemed to be coming or existing from the same complete source that I seemed to be a part of now. I was no longer aware of, nor needed to be aware of, the mechanics of what was taking place, for all was accepted for what it was and what it existed as. I was immediately bombarded with information that came to me from all directions, through multiple dimensions, as so it seemed. The information rushed at me like the last stages of some type of completion. It was perfecting the harmony in which I was part of now. It was as if my being had become a vacuum, opening up, allowing everything that ever was or was to ever be inside. Within what seemed to be a blink of an eye, the information retention was over. I can only do my best at this point to explain what took place, for words fall miles short of the actual feeling. I will do my best to explain it as this. I now understood everything that ever was or was ever to be. I didn't need to think or even question anymore. I was complete. I was what I believe was the highest existence of peace that could ever be, for my mind was silent and I was simply being, and nothing more. I was a part of everything that ever was, and with that I had no expectations nor thought. I was existing within everything and had no form or shape, just a complete, perfect state of being. I bobbed to the top of the lake. A whisper of breath shot back into me. My eyes opened, and I was a changed person. After this experience, I had no change or enlightened feeling. I did, however, remember the experience, and for a short time, everything seemed to be polished up. The world had a much more vibrant color. For the following 3 years, I became obsessed with finding the source of the feeling, which I had had during the experience. I soon fell into a massive depression after finding no answers. I had at this point decided to take my life due to the massive amounts of anxiety I was going through. I called my father and expressed my apologies for what I was then going to do. After getting off the phone, I crumbled down to the floor and immediately saw myself below me. I was then transported to a plane in a high place, a bright place that had no effect on sight. I had no physical form and was able to see in a 360-degree view. I entered, moved, floated into a wooden form that seemed to be an incredibly huge hall occupied by hundreds of people. They took no notice of me as I moved past them to the right alongside the east wall. I took notice in a huge framed picture of what we currently recognize as Christ. Immediately, I noticed small circular colors bouncing off the walls directly in front of me and all around me. I began to look around and noticed the people had risen looking to the north. The colors now were incredible, millions of them all dancing and weaving, becoming a massive single source emitting a white, bright pearl color. As I began to look to the source, which seemed to be on my right judging by the people's view, some opposing, gentle force stopped me. At that immediate moment, it was as if I knew this was deathly real. I could feel anxiety enter me at that point. and immediately it was hushed by a source that seemed to caress me, as if a hand had been placed underneath my existence. I began being pulled back, still not able to turn far enough to see the source. I began going for the source. Nothing mattered at that point excepting making it to the source. I was then communicated with and told that this was not my time. I was told that what I was going through, this was not in words, but merely communicated to me directly through my subconscious, didn't matter. What mattered was that I understood the experience and took it as nothing more but an experience. I explain it best as this. I was standing on a cliff of life. My choices as I felt were to jump off or step back and reevaluate the situation. The source simply explained to me that neither was the answer. The answer was to understand it as only an experience and nothing more, and the cycle would be complete.